So it seems that Games Workshop's dropped a small stealth update, fixing one particular Space Marine issue that was stand out for a rules update patch, smoothing out a couple of errors in their faction packs. I thought we'd also take a look at the new Inquisitor datasheets they've put in the rules as well. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today I thought we'd just do a quick fire video to take a look at Games Workshop's small rules update, which looks like it's the first instance of them updating these new faction packs and using them to make changes for an army. The main one that actually matters a bit for a few niche armies is the FAQ to the Space Marine detachments. This was an issue that had been talked about a fair bit, particularly in relation to the Raven Guard Shadowmark Talon. The TLDR is that it's fixed the exact way that you'd expect it to be fixed, though it seems they've done this as a slightly stealth update that they haven't announced anywhere, at least so far. If you click into the Space Marine faction pack now, the What's New bit says they've added some FAQs and errata, and that shows up in res to show the changes. So I guess when Games Workshop updates and makes changes to errata and things, that'll be what we have to look out for. Though hopefully most of the time they'll actually publish it and tell us what they've done. The faction packs were basically Games Workshop consolidating a whole bunch of Space Marine and other faction rules, putting them all into single documents, so you have both things like extra detachments, extra data sheets, their Legends rules, and errata all in one place rather than strewn across like 5 different PDFs, as well as the change they've sort of soft announced in the track changes thing. They've also done a few other things, it would seem. I noticed that in that Space Marines download, they've put Vulcan Hestan back into the Space Marine faction pack as he was missing for some reason. That one just looked like someone had failed to copy and paste him, and I sort of wonder whether or not that might have been a motivation to actually use the errata change at the same time, as maybe if you're going to be updating the rule pack anyway, it's an excuse to fix both things rather than one. As well as that, it looks like they removed the extra Legends datasheet for Karanak that a few people had spotted in the update yesterday. It seemed they had both one for him in a standard way and also one in Legends. And also it looks like there's one other fun change that I not spotted yesterday. It looks like there's a Legends datasheet for the Warhammer Plus Inquisitor Ostromandeus. He'd not had any rules before, so I thought we could take a look at that. I think that was probably there when it launched though, and it just wasn't particularly obvious given how many packs there were. And most people only took a look at the ones for their own factions. I was interested to see his rules though, as I've just finished painting the guy up. I guess there's a good chance there might be some more. If you spotted any other small updates they've done, then feel free to let us know down in the comments. For the Raven Guard and Space Marine detachment fix though, it's for the Shadowmark Talon. As I've talked about in a few videos recently, the Raven Guard seem to have been making some big waves. They got Ethon Sharn in a Great Lone Operative datasheet, particularly so when Games Workshop gave him a very cheap points cost of 85 points, and then the Raven Guard got their unique detachment in the Shadowmark Talon, a flatly boosted Vanguard Task Force detachment, which was already one of the more interesting ones as Codex Space Marines went, but in this version, if Ethon Sharn's still alive, then he gets to use the Return to Reserve stratagem absolutely for free, and that's a big deal as it's one of the biggest and most impactful ones, great for warping things like Centurions or Inceptors around the board to get alpha strikes on their targets. They had a few other changes, including a nice fall back and shoot stratagem which doesn't hurt either, and they swapped out one of the enhancements for really quite a good one, allowing a turn 1 rapid ingress with Vanguard veterans, so a jump captain drops down and can rapid ingress turn 1 and then make a big charge. As mentioned, it seems to have been one of the very strongest detachments for Codex Space Marines right now. It looks like it's potentially one of the ones with the biggest win rate, perhaps partly due to needing quite a specific set of models to run it optimally. Here's one example list from John Lennon, who won a great big tournament with it, going heavy on the Centurions and Inceptors, 2 great big units of Vanguard veterans, one with Shrike and one with the rapid ingress captain, and a few standard Space Marine support style units. There has been one fairly major issue with it though, which I did talk about in a video when I focused on the detachment last week, and that was that you could make a rules as written argument that this detachment and the other new Space Marine detachments don't get the boosted Oath of Moment with the +1 to wound due to the way that that rule is written and then the FAQs that they published for it. I think to me and the vast majority of people out there, the intent seemed perfectly clear. As a core Codex Space Marine chapter, Raven Guard should get it, particularly when this detachment is so clearly just an alternative version of the Vanguard Task Force. But it seems that due to people being pedantic and Games Workshop wanting to tighten up their rules, they had an FAQ that clearly spelled out what was a Codex Space Marine detachment, and while they didn't have any extra ones added in, they spelled out specifically the ones that were available in core Codex Space Marines, so that wouldn't include the additional ones. And on the list, the Shadowmark Talon wasn't listed, nor was the Salamander's Forgefather Seekers. As it didn't feature on the FAQ list, rules as written, you could certainly argue that it wasn't a core Codex Space Marine detachment, even if it featured on the list of the same ones in the app. and even if it was taken by Raven Guard, which is clearly a core Codex chapter, and I'd certainly agree the intent was absolutely to have a +1 to wound with the Oath of Moments. It did mean though, going by the absolute letter of the rules until Games Workshop patched them, that some events were ruling against it, and it wasn't just small events as well. The UKTC and the London Grand Tournament basically said that it can't have the +1 to wounds, which is quite a big deal for it. It didn't stop the Raven Guard doing well, but I guess you could certainly argue that they would have done better if they'd had an extra nasty damage buff available every game of their tournaments. In any case, it looks like it's been patched exactly as you'd expect it to be. The updated wording of that FAQ basically saying that Codex Space Marine detachments are ones that are printed in Codex Space Marines, and every one inside this faction pack. So the Librarius one, the Imperial Fist, Salamanders, and Raven Guard ones so far, though I guess there'll be more. Given it's a somewhat major one, might not have been the worst idea to put out some sort of post to make people aware that it existed. Though as you can see, people cotton onto it really quite quickly, and word goes around when someone spots a change like this. In general, seems like it's good news for one of the most powerful ways to play Space Marines. You won't have people ruling against it in tournaments. And for the more conscientious players out there who don't want to be gaining rules advantages they're not necessarily entitled to, there's now no reason to feel bad about the +1 to wound Oath of Moment for this one in particular. Seems like the Sons of Korax are going to be set to be having a good time with this. I'll certainly be interested to find out what changes when we get the White Scars and the Iron Hands ones too. Finally, as mentioned, I was interested to see the new rule set for Inquisitor Ostromandeus. This guy's the Warhammer Plus Year 4 miniature. I guess now if you sign up, you'd get the Spirit Seer one, though I believe people who are coming to the end of 12-month subscriptions will still be able to pick him up when they do. Quite a fun little model, to be honest, and I feel like it wouldn't have been the worst idea to make something like him a more standard part of the Warhammer 40k range. It is kind of weird that we don't have a more generic Inquisitor model, and at least his base model would have done the job. It seems that he comes alongside a couple of things to announce his decrees though, a Vox Servitor and a little Vox Servo skull. His data sheet is this one. It gets some Legends rules, so it isn't part of the competitive Warhammer 40k game. It will be valid for some more standard match play. As best I can tell, it doesn't look like he's had any sort of points cost released for him yet though. I guess eventually that'll turn up in the Legends section of the field manual. Seems that's maybe another thing that Games Workshop needs to stealth update sometime. In any case, he comes as a 2-model unit. You get profiles for him and the Servitor, but not the Servo Skull. You can attach to any Imperium battle line infantry, so it could be added into a whole bunch of armies, plus attaching a bit like an Ordo Hereticus Inquisitor from Codex Imperial Agents. For his stat line, the Inquisitor himself is a 4-wound model with a 3+ save and a 5+ invulnerable. It looks like everyone gets a 4+ feel no pain for some reason, so kind of unusually hard to take down there. The Vox Servitor is also surprisingly chunky as well, with a 4+ save, 3 wounds, and again that 4+ feel no pain. For his damage profiles, he gets a Punchy Inferno pistol. His power sword is a more regular profile one with strength 4 and damage 1, though weirdly enough it looks like the Vox Servitor has the biggest punch in melee. 3 attacks at strength 6, AP 2 and damage 2 from his hydraulic Vox ram, so apparently he's going to be shouting at you extra hard. Then for special rules, he's got 3 main ones. His squad becomes -1 to hit and wound against psychic attacks. A bit niche, but that's a pretty meaningful damage debuff if his squad does get targeted. Perhaps more impactfully, he has the Vox Cast Proclamations, which looks like it's one of those Aura of Discord style special rules, so increasing the cost of stratagems by 1 command point for the enemy within 12 inches. That's really quite a powerful ability to have surviving in the midboard if you can get it. And then finally, that Vox Skull model does have a special rule as well. It's a once per battle token, and it basically triggers a battle shock test at the start of any phase once per battle besides against monsters and vehicles. You choose one unit within 12 inches. You could potentially get some good advantage from the battle shock itself, like stopping enemies scoring an objective in their command phase, and also if they happen to fail the battle shock test, then they don't have the benefit of cover until the end of your next turn. A few vulnerabilities, hard really to say whether or not he'd be actually any good in game without a points cost, and maybe not really the sort of models to try and power game in the first place with if he's a Legends model in the first place and probably isn't going to be getting any sort of balance updates. Seems fun for those who wanted to use their Warhammer Plus miniature with some official rules though, as that Servitor was a little bit unsure as to exactly how you'd represent it, and again nice to see Games Workshop putting in a bit more effort with the Legends rules than the sort of bare minimum ones they did at the start of 10th. I'll leave that one there for now though. Let me know your thoughts as to the Space Marine change and Mr. Ostromandeus. I look forward to hearing your takes down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where I'll certainly keep the regular 40k videos coming. I do tend to post new ones just about every day. And if you have been enjoying the videos on the channel, then check out the channel's Patreon page if you'd like to support. Channel patrons get a few advantages, including seeing occasional videos early and regular votes as to what sort of things come next on the channel. In any case though, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.